Alright, well, it's been 3 months, and that means it's time for a top 10 list for the second quarter of 2023. Hey everyone, welcome back to Andrew's Wizardly Reads, and as always, I'm Andrew, and today I have got a top 10 list. I know that's what you're here for, but before we get into that top 10 list, do me a personal favor. Like this video and subscribe to the channel, as it does help the channel grow, and hit that notification bell if you want to get regular updates for when I put out new videos. And, if you're feeling generous, you can check the description box down below for all my silly little links to the Wizardly Do It Discords if you just want to chat on a regular basis. Maybe do some buddy reads, just share pictures of your books, and then there's the links to my Patreon and all my other social media, including my Pango books for all the books that I remove from here. And yeah, that's all my silly little links. Now, we're here for a top 10. Let's talk about the top 10 books that I read in the second quarter of 2023. And we're going to start with the ones that I don't own physically. And this happens occasionally, I get a review copy that's not quite out yet, or I do it on audio and I haven't quite secured the physical copy yet. But we're going to start with Mother of Learning by Nobody 103 or Dumagoy Kermayage. And this could either work for like Arc 2 or Arc 3. They're very comparable. I'd be hard pressed to choose between the two, but it's such a fun progression story with a nice time loop element mixed in. And at this point, we're like 7 years into this time loop of just Zorian Krasinski living the same month over and over and over again. And like, how does he maintain friendships? How does he continue to grow? How does he figure out how to escape this time loop? It's really fascinating and really entertaining to see the kind of trouble he can get into because he keeps talking to the same people over and over and over, and they don't remember, so he starts accumulating knowledge about these people, and the occasional slip can be incredibly entertaining. And I'm coming up on the 4th arc, and I'm very excited and sad that it's going to be over, but I'm here for it. So my first pick is just Mother of Learning in general, and that can either be arcs 2 or 3. Next up, we have got Down Below Beyond by T.A. Bruno. Now, it's not officially out yet, but I did get the arc, and this is just set in the same world as his Song of Kamaria, and yeah, it kind of takes that theme and builds upon it, and we really get to explore friendship and found family and how people can grow apart, and how that, wanting different things out of life can really shatter friendships, but it can also lead to new opportunities, and how sometimes what you were looking for was always here. It's fantastic. I loved this adventure to T.A. Bruno. I do have a dedicated book review. You can check it out right there if you want to know more. But Down Below Beyond was a great, very fast-paced, very fun, and there is a potted plant character in there, and that's all you really need to know. And then finally, the last one that I don't have is Waybound by Will White. This is the final Cradle book. It was amazing. Again, check it right there for my dedicated review of this book. I absolutely loved it. I thought Will White nailed the landing. I can speak. I'm so excited to talk about Waybound. Got a little tongue-tied. But yeah, no, Waybound was fantastic. It like, if you were invested in the series, it gave you exactly the ending that, I thought I wanted. Maybe with a slight twist that I wasn't expecting, but overall, very good. I never thought that where we started and where we end up, like, it's just night and day. It's so good. It's entertaining, very fast-paced, and I highly still recommend Cradle to fans of progression fantasy. Maybe even some who like Cultivation. I don't know, they're kind of the same thing, but maybe a little different. Anyway, I digress. We're going to move on to the ones I own physically. And this is one I just finished. Like, this was the final book that I finished in this quarter, and this is Divinity's Twilight Remnant. Now, this is a sequel. This is a book number 2. You're going to notice a fair few of those because I've been reading a lot of sequels this quarter. This is by Christopher Russell, and my goodness, this might be, it is one of the top 10 books I've read this month because it's on this list, but I have gotten so much enjoyment out of I can't talk too much about it, but basically Valen, Mateo, Vel, Jiz, all of them have Jiz, J-I-S, I don't know how to pronounce that. But their character arcs and their growth and their dynamics and the world building and the war and the lore and everything that's in here, and this is illustrated. I I was very pleasantly surprised to realize that this was illustrated with an amazing map, by the way. I think everybody who loves epic fantasy and Brandon Sanderson and Stormlight Archive should be reading Christopher Russell's Divinitys Twilight. I think the third book comes out first quarter of next year, tentatively, there we go. But, I mean, I absolutely loved everything about this experience. My emotions. Like, I mean, you go on a roller coaster ride throughout this entry. It gets a little bleak at times, but these just feel like fully fledged out characters. I loved everything about it. Then we've got Titan Hoppers. Again, progression fantasy rears its head. This is by Rob J. Hayes. Well, this is fantasy / sci-fi. But basically, we're following Iro. It's either Iro or Iro. Iro, I believe. There's two characters. Their names are very similar. But essentially, this is a spacefaring civilization. And they are a fleet of ships that don't really have their own natural resources. But there is an artificial kind of station called a Titan. They're just gigantic. It can take generations just to explore a single wing. And they go over to this Titan and they get water and food and, everything that they need in order to survive in the fleet. And then their Titan gets destroyed. And we do a 5-year time jump where all of their resources are dwindled. Everybody's on half rations. The only food they have to eat is like algae. And they've kind of given up until they discover a new Titan. And then they need to send hoppers over to this Titan to secure it. And the hoppers are the people who go over and they can kind of unlock magical abilities. And it's really interesting, very fascinating. Great coming of age type of story, pushing back through adversity and really fighting for your dreams. I really, really enjoyed this story. The ending is just pulse pounding. It's so good. This was sent to me by one of my patrons, Mike Mulman, and then selected by my patron Sharon for me to read. So this was an endeavor from my patrons to get me to read this, and I just appreciate you all so much. So thank you for finally getting me to read this. I do have the sequel, Spire Climbers, as well, but the audio isn't out yet, and I did this one on audio, and it was just absolutely amazing. So good. Next up, we have got another banger, which is Christopher G. Brenning's RAF Bringer. And again, I am finding that like dynamic character arcs are just so fascinating. Gareth and just Damien, everybody in here, Madeline. Oh, we've got a Titan. Everybody's character arcs in here was incredibly dynamic. And like one of the things apparently that I really, really enjoy is watching somebody just start out with really good intentions and get corrupted and become the villain. And then also seeing somebody who had good intentions, failed, gets completely shattered, and then has to fight back through the adversity and build themselves back up. Or, somebody with no self-confidence, discovering their self-confidence. All of that is within this series. It's brutal, it's bloody, and it's dark, but it's done in such a way that is just gripping and engaging, and I absolutely love Christopher G. Brenning's writing. I'll actually be having both Christopher G. Brenning and Christopher Russell on the channel for author interviews in the very near future. Don't get tongue-tied. All right, next up, of course, he was going to make the list. We've got Stephen King, and specifically, we've got The Green Mile. This one was just so good. I mean, like, I watched not only the movie, but read the book. Like, I don't normally do that, but I enjoyed the book so much that I had to know if the movie with Tom Hanks was just as good. And Paul is just, he's this, I think this is during the Great Depression. Yeah, it's during the Great Depression because, like, having a job is a big deal. But basically, they work on the Green Mile, which is death row. And we kind of go as they do all these executions throughout the story and everything that's involved. And it's just so engaging and dynamic to watch Paul deal with John Coffey and Delacruz and Toot Toot and Dean and Brutal and Percy and just all of these characters. Like, Percy is an absolute nitwit. I can't stand that man. But, man, the story in here is just fascinating and so heartfelt and heartbreaking at the same time that I just absolutely loved this experience. It's now my favorite Stephen King book. And then, oh, my copy got damaged. How did that happen? Oh, it got really damaged. Oh, well. We've got Boy's Life by Robert McCammon. I'm so sad. Like, the back got bent and the corner got smashed. That That breaks my heart. This book is amazing. We go to Zephyr, Alabama with Corey Mackinson, and this is just a great coming of age story. It's like I liken it to It, but like without the clown and without like the people still aren't the best. But basically, there's been a murder in this small town, and like nobody can identify the body. Nobody knows where this person came from. This is set in the '60s, so there's like some Klan stuff going on. There's some like voodoo going on and stuff like that. It's fantastic. I think it's set in it's Alabama. I almost said Louisiana, but I mean this book was a great coming of age story, a great just father son. Like I recommended this book for Father's Day. I did a little short where I was just like Corey's relationship with his father was amazing. Basically, they see a car go over the edge of a cliff. And when Corey's father jumps into the lake to see what's going on, he notices that, like, gang style, this person's been executed, like, stripped naked. Their neck's been, like, cut, and they've been tied to the... I don't know if I remember the neck's been cut, but... And their hands are, like, tied to the steering wheel, and then the lake's deep enough that they just can't dredge it out. And so, like, he sees a symbol on the skin, and no matter what, nobody's missing from town. It's engaging. It's very cool. And I did not see the ending coming, but it was awesome. I really, really enjoyed it. Now we got two books left. And we're going to start with John Palladino's The Trials of Ashmont. I read this in April after having DNF'd it last year. Just because there was a trigger warning in there, I ended up doing a dedicated book review for this one as well. You can check that out right there. And this was fantastic. It was brutal. It was grim. It was very realistic. And everything that happens in here, it's a multi-POV story where essentially just people are caught doing things that they shouldn't, like somebody kills somebody they shouldn't to try to get up on life, and instead they get enslaved and get turned into a gladiator. Somebody's trying to make their way into magic school, but things aren't quite as they appear. There might be some secret dealings going on and a very odd entrance exam. It's so cool. There's somebody from that magic school who has been exiled and is looking for revenge for wrongs in their past. It's just an amazing book. I need to read Buzzard's Bolt. I've been wanting to read Buzzard's Bolt for forever now, and I've got it, but I am planning on buying these two on hardcover because I think Silverstone's or Broken Binding has both of these signed in hardcover, and I want to have those in my collection. And I foolishly got rid of my signed paperback when I DNF'd it, and I thought I would never return. And now, look at me here, eating my words, putting it in a top 10. And then, of course, another sequel. We've got Crazy Maids in a Row by Patricia Meredith. This is everything that I wanted the Spokane Clock Tower Mysteries series to do. This is kind of the closing of the first arc, and it made me happy. We got to experience an insane asylum setting. We got to experience a villainous POV, but with a twist. We got to do con men. We got the relationships that I wanted to happen here. Everything I wanted the Spokane Clock Tower Mysteries. I've been talking about this for months now. If you want a period mystery, please check out Spokane Clock Tower Mysteries because they are so good. And that is my 10th book on this list. That is my top 10 Q2 of 2023. Let me know your top 10 in the comments down below. I would love to hear from you. And that is really all I've got for you today, guys. So till next time, peace out, stay magical, bye. And as always, I want to give a huge thank you to my patrons.